pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify, who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States.
Welcome back to CBS This Morning. If Joe Biden is committed to that pledge, he has a lot of work ahead of him. Americans are fiercely split not only about policy, but on the basic decency of the other side. In a recent Pew poll, for example, only about 1 in 5 registered voters said that they share core American values with the other party. And about 9 in 10 people, basically everybody, worried that a victory by the opposition would do lasting harm to America. So one idea to ease this strain is to give America what you would any other struggling relationship, a little therapy. How are you feeling about the state of the country?
I'm devastated.
You are?
I am.
I think our country is more divided than ever.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible.
After 244 years together as a nation, we seem to be growing apart.
Are you concerned about the polarization and division in the country?
Absolutely.
Yep, of course.
I feel like there's not a lot of compassion for us as human beings for each other anymore.
And just about everyone seems to agree that the state of our union is on the rocks.
Yes, definitely, yes.
Definitely like the feeling where the husband comes home and does his hobbies and doesn't talk to the wife until they go to bed.
There is a professor at the University of Minnesota who does marriage counseling and who thinks that America is a bit like a marriage and the marriage is not going too well.
Ooh, we need therapy.
We do?
Yeah.
He does therapy, as it happens.
He is Bill Doherty, a family therapist and co-founder of a nonprofit called Braver Angels, which runs thousands of workshops nationwide.
Once polarization takes root, it's an escalation.
Dedicated to repairing the bond between liberals and conservatives, using the very same techniques that Doherty has used to help husbands and wives.
We are an American family. We sit at the same table. You can imagine one big Thanksgiving table. And if we expel people from the table because of their political views, we will lose our ability to function as a country.
Doherty says Americans first need to decide that our democracy is worth saving, and not everybody thinks so. As one man told us,
We need to have a divorce.
A big threat that I see growing right now is the people who are saying that they are morally compromised by having a conversation with somebody who differs from them. Morally compromised because they are condoning evil. This is a serious threat to a democracy.
Doherty says that addressing it requires getting each side to take responsibility for their role in the quarrel. But as we discovered over 2 days of talking to voters across the political spectrum, talking about the other side is a hard habit to break. That was certainly true for Biden supporters.
Our current president denies science. He is in denial about a deadly pandemic.
The marriage counselor professor would tell me to tell you, forget about the other side, forget about what they're doing. Talk about the Democrats. How can they help heal this divide?
They need to start meeting halfway.
I just think they're so self-involved with their own.
Pardon me for interrupting, but the marriage counselor professor would tell me to tell you, forget about what the Republicans are doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just find the hypocrisy of what the Republicans are spewing. Okay, marriage counseling.
I'm supposed to, yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right. All right.
But Trump supporters also struggled with what Doherty calls the humility question.
Is it hard to think about the ways you and your party might be contributing?
Sure, both sides are. I think the other side is just a little too crazy for me.
Channeling the marriage counselor here, he would tell me to tell you, forget about the other side. What about you guys? What can you do differently?
It's a tough one.
Still, just about everyone we spoke to was, with a little push, willing to admit that their side is not perfect. Both liberals.
You think Democrats share some of the blame for the nastiness in politics today?
Oh, yes. I wish I could say, oh, no, they have nothing to do with it, but they do.
100%.
They do.
100%.
And conservatives.
Well, I think the blame probably, if you had to be honest, would fall with the president. His criticism and his rhetoric divided the country.
Well, I'm a little concerned about the president's refusal to concede. Embracing conspiracy theories never helps.
Many were also willing to acknowledge that our American marriage requires a little give and take.
I think that we should have health care for all, and I'm wouldn't take a compromise for that.
Let's take that idea. Let's imagine the marriage of Americans, Democrats and Republicans. You're on one side and you're saying health care for all. The other side's saying no way. How do you stay married?
It's a good point you bring up. Good question, I have to say, because I wish I put some more thought into this.
Both parties talk about bringing people together, but none of the policies or conversations really support that. So I think if you're not helping the situation, then you are hurting it.
That's very therapy-ish, yeah. So
am I passing?
It's insight like this that makes Bill Doherty, if not exactly confident, at least hopeful that America is on the mend.
I think people are starting to realize we can't go on this way. I have hope that we're going to wake up and see divisiveness and polarization as our enemy, not people on the other political side.
Oh, I like that.
All right, I feel like the way I did it at a therapy session, I feel kind of exhausted from it.
I know. But, you know, some good work was done.
Yes.
Divorce is not an option, and if you can't talk, there's really no alternative. But violence, you don't want violence. You gotta talk it out.
It is so hard, though, Tony, when you feel that you feel you're right.
I know.
It's so hard to see the other side. And they say that in counseling all the time.
I know. But that's why it's humility. That's what's required.
Yeah.
You have to
But that question that you keep going back to is the right one, which is what can you do to make it better? If everybody just keeps looking at the other side and accusing, you don't get anywhere.
I remember once in therapy, a counselor said to me, Gail, do you want peace or do you want to be right? I go, I want both. I go, well, no.
If I started a sentence I remember once in therapy, it'd be 8:45. I'd still be telling the story.
I know. That was very good, Tony. I love when you talk to people.
It's fascinating when we hear ourselves talk about ourselves.
When people take the time to talk, it's great.
They do.